Yo, what's up, guys? Nobleman Nick here. We got our special plastic cards from Gencon of the winning army of Gencon that I used my tickets to get. Firstly, because I think those two are quite cool. And I like Einar, and I'm glad this army won, so thought it'd be cool to get the winning army's cards since they were all there. This is literally all the cards except Blink. I forgot there is a Blink one, and I didn't get that one. So anyway, we're gonna go over why this army was so good. So part of the reason this army was so good is because it was a counter to the troopers, and there ended up being like 75% troopers at Gen Con. The troopers in Serpentor and Destro, or like twin versions. I used a Serpentor Destro version. Literally all I faced day 1 and 2 and 3 were always trooper builds. There was a lot of other builds though. There was some builds with Eel and Fafua, which my friend Austin used. Him with some Dreadnoughts and then a bunch of Rannoch Vipers. Some others were using him with Maladrix. What else was there? Yeah, Rannochs were good with some of those big unique pods like Maladrix. Maladrix was also with the Skordire Infantry. We also see new Sudema with the Reavers. Those are all like good squads or whatever. My friend Austin also had the Exiles in that army. And my friend Alex had, the Sudema Reaver army. There was also a Sergeant Drake in the New Bears. Sergeant Drake 3 in the New Bears because he was counter to the troopers. Because if you kill Destro here, then the troopers are a lot weaker, and if you can kill Serpentor as well. But yeah, if you can fly over or run up and kill Destro quick, that's a pretty big deal. So a lot of the armies had stuff that could do that. Didn't really see Kariga or any orcs or things like that. I seen there was a few SI4X, either with Cobra or with Reavers to get the Phantom Walk going. But this is the main stuff we were going to talk about since it won. And I'll probably talk about those other armies with Tales of Valhalla. But anyway, so Gimbal with the Expedition here is quite good, but the key here, because those other Gimbal builds didn't really do great, is actually Guilty McCreech. Because he can make Gimbal a lawman, because Gimbal is a Volaric or Einar figure, so hero. So that means when Nishi wants to use Call for backup, he can bond with Gimbal. But I'm going to explain how this works. So basically the best way that it works is you put order markers on the expedition. They have expeditionary force. Before taking a turn with them, you may first take a turn with a Vorid or scientist hero you control. Add 1 to that hero's move. Well, Gimbal is a scientist. Gimbal has 6 move with flying in the beginning. So when you bond with the Eisen Expedition, Gimbal has 7 move with flying and can get halfway up the battlefield in 1 turn and all the way in the start zone of the 2nd turn if that's what you would choose to do. But typically you just fly Gimbal up into the middle of the battlefield and use the fire breath because you have the breath, wings, and claws. And so you fire breath until someone sends up their Cobra figures, which is the main thing there, which is Serpentor, or you go for a melee on Destro. But you basically just burn the troopers. And in the mushroom maps, Gimbal can still use Fireline without targeting anybody. Anybody else doing ranged attacks have to not be able to do them when they're next to mushrooms, so that's very much a perk because Gencon had a few maps that had mushrooms, including one that had huge mushrooms. So anyway, so yeah, Gimbal would brush up. You can drop the glyphs when you're about to take any amount of damage, even if it's like 8 wounds. You can drop a glyph, which gets rid of one of those 3 powers, and you don't have to take any wounds. So you can easily run up and kill Destro or have a 1v1 against Serpentor and do quite a bit with that big attack of 5, 4 defense, 3 life with 6 or more life, really, because you're using those glyphs. And once you've already flown to the middle of the map in one turn, you really don't need flying anymore. The claws can do an auto wound if you wound somebody in melee attack and they're next to that person, and then the fire line, like I said, you still would have. So yeah, you send Gimbal forward to get in people's face, and then these guys can stand back and snipe, and if they're on height they get 4 attack. If they stand back on low ground, they still get 3 at 7 range. They also have well equipped, so if it's like a toxic or lava map, they can still stand on the height and not be affected by those things, which is another super nice perk. Yeah, and that's basically what they do. And there's only 3 and they're unique, so if you're afraid they're gonna die, you can just put the order markers on Nishi once you've taken a couple turns with them, and all of a sudden Nishi can take a turn with his solid stats. He has Sword Catcher too, which can weaken the enemies if he gets one-on-one, which I did see happen. But mainly he has the thing where he has Samurai Hero bonding. So you take a turn with him, you take a turn with the Samurai Hero, and for call for backup, if he is within 5 clear sight spaces of an enemy figure, you may take a turn with a lawman hero, or yeah, so since Gimbal's a lawman, as long as Nishi moves up and there's somebody there, then you can start doing stuff with Gimbal, which is not too difficult, especially when Gimbal is already in the action holding people down, and you don't want to lose turns with Gimbal by putting them on these guys anymore. So Gimbal starts doing that while Gimbal continues to do that, I should say, while Takanawa Kaiga comes in. And not only that, well, we'll get to that in a second, but so this guy can get up in the action in 1 turn with 8 move, and then he can, the Blade Thirst, move another 4. He takes a wound for it, but he can attack twice then. His sword gives him basically 5 attack, because you get an auto skull with your 3 attack. And he has counter strike with 4 defense, which is quite nice as well. So then it ends up being someone who has essentially 2 attacks of 5, and Gimbal with Gimbal's attack of 5, or Fireline for 4, taking turns at the same time, and Nishi at the same time, which is super good, and super good at just running over Destro and even Serpentor when you got both of these. Because this guy with those stats is pretty much like Serpentor, but then you got him as well. And Destro just doesn't stand a chance against either of them when they get up to Destro. So, and neither do a lot of other people. Like, I mean, that's a lot of offense there. Let's see what else. So once he dies, he drops that sword, and once Gimbal takes damage, Gimbal starts dropping the pieces. But that's when you have Guilty McCreech. Guilty has that arm where even if someone's on top of a glyph, you can use the arm to grab a glyph from 3 spaces away. And I saw the winner of Gencon do this in his semifinal match, where he picks up Takanawa Kaiga's blade, and then he gets an auto skull on melee attacks, and he attacks twice, which is super intense with Guilty. If you don't get a wound, you take a wound with it, but it's super worth it when you get to attack twice. And then the Deputize was kind of his main thing. And yeah, that's Guilty. That's what he does, basically. I talked about it. Then you still got Blink for end games, where if the expedition is still alive, even 1 or 2, Blink can also be bonded with. So you can end up getting several people range attacking. And Blink can do the counter strike from range with the what's that called? Quick draw, which works very often with the 20-sided die. You can, I think it's like 9 or higher or something like that, where he can counter strike range, which is Cobra range. So he knew, Albot and the Pennsylvania people knew, just like everybody else, there was going to be a lot of Cobra. So how do you counter it? You counter it with Blink. You counter it with something that can come and do big damage, which is both of these. And obviously, like, I had a Gimbal army in mind, but again, I sort of counted out this Lawman Samurai build. And I shouldn't have, so that they were just trying to probably figure out what does Nishi go with. Obviously, Nishi goes with Takanawa Kaiga, that's the only real samurai. Guilty McCreech basically has to, and then Blink was a filler. But they were like, well, what if we make this new big dragon into a lawman, like you can do with Zelrig? And turns out that's super good. And so they did that with the expedition to give him 2 different ways to bond Nishi and the expedition. So yeah, you got glyphs, you got a glyph grabber, you got 2 ways of bonding with a dragon that can ignore wounds and blow fire and hit really hard, and he can hit hard and move quick and hit multiple times. And even Blink as another bonder for these guys, and someone who has quick draw. So yeah, anyway, that's why this army was so good, because of all that synergy and the 2 super offensive pieces that it has. And really, this is quite offensive in the very beginning as well, these guys. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think about this army winning Gencon plus Blink. And I'll see you guys next time.